Everyone hears about Nashville's explosive growth, but in other corners of Tennessee, entire cities are quietly unraveling. While headlines talk about a booming state, 5 communities have sunk into decline, hit by factory shutdowns, chronic underinvestment, and the flight of young talent. Why have these places missed out on the comeback story? The answer exposes deeper threats to Tennessee's future than most realize, and reveals what is really at stake if the divide keeps growing. Factories once stood at the center of daily life across West and Middle Tennessee. Towns like Jackson, Dyersburg, and Brownsville grew up around a single plant or processing hub, including automotive parts, textiles, food packaging, or tire manufacturing. These employers did more than provide jobs. They were anchor employers for local tax bases, and they kept small businesses alive. When a plant closed or automated, the shock was immediate and far-reaching. The Goodyear plant in Union City eliminated nearly 1,900 jobs in 2011. Smaller closures rippled through Dyer and Madison counties with hundreds of layoffs at a time. Automation too chipped away at payrolls. Machines replaced workers, leaving fewer families with steady income. The loss of these anchor employers set off a chain reaction. With fewer paychecks circulating, local shops and restaurants shuttered. Schools and city services lost funding as property and sales tax collections fell. In some places, the drop was sharp. Within a year of a major closure, sales tax receipts would decline, and vacant storefronts multiplied along main streets. Even towns that managed to attract a new employer rarely replaced the lost wages or benefits. Many jobs that arrived paid less or offered less security than those that disappeared. This dependence on a single industry left entire communities exposed. When the core employer faltered, there was little to cushion the blow. Families with the means to move often left, accelerating population decline. Those who stayed faced shrinking opportunities and a weaker local safety net. The hollowing out of these towns was not just economic, it was a slow, visible unraveling of the systems that once held them together. Chronic underinvestment has shaped the fate of many Tennessee towns as much as factory closures. Across rural and post-industrial communities, state and federal data show decades of lagging support for schools, transportation, and healthcare. The Tennessee State Data Center tracks multiple counties in West Tennessee on long-term low growth or outright underinvestment, citing gaps in basic infrastructure as a major driver. Public transit options remain sparse. Several rural counties have lost hospitals in the past decade. Educational attainment falls behind state averages, with fewer four-year institutions and limited technical training, fueling a persistent brain drain as younger educated residents leave for metro areas. To assess which places are struggling most, this investigation uses a transparent set of criteria grounded in the American Community Survey and the FBI crime data. The approach emphasizes transparency and reproducible measures. The first indicator is population change. Towns that lose residents year after year signal clear economic and social headwinds. Poverty and unemployment rates come from census and labor statistics and measure the depth of economic stress. Crime trends, especially violent crime rates per 100,000 residents, provide a window into public safety and stability. Housing stress is measured by cost burdens, vacancy rates, and aging housing stock and reflects both affordability and livability. Finally, economic diversification is tracked by examining the share of jobs concentrated in a single sector versus a more balanced mix. These metrics are not just numbers, they reveal why some towns struggled to adapt after losing their industrial anchors. The absence of sustained investment in schools, roads, and healthcare left communities less able to attract new employers or to retain families. Each city profile that follows draws directly from these indicators, offering a clear data-driven lens for understanding decline. Memphis stands as Tennessee's largest city, but its size brings acute challenges. According to FBI data, Memphis recorded between 2,500 and 3,000 violent crimes per 100,000 residents in 2022, placing it among the highest rates for any large city in the United States. The city's poverty rate hovers around 25%, nearly double the state average, and child poverty approaches 1 in 3. These burdens are not spread evenly. While downtown and select logistics corridors attract new investment, many neighborhoods in North and South Memphis face concentrated poverty, struggling schools, and limited access to jobs. A longtime resident from South Memphis describes the daily reality. You hear sirens every night. We worry more about keeping our kids safe than anything else. Memphis has invested in redevelopment and policing strategies, including controversial data-driven efforts like the Blue Crush program, but the core issues remain deeply rooted. The combination of high crime, persistent poverty, and uneven opportunity leaves large parts of the city locked out of recent economic gains. Jackson, about 80 miles east, reveals a different but related pattern. Once a regional hub for manufacturing and distribution, Jackson has seen its population stagnate and its tax base erode. City financial reports show property tax collections rising only a few percent each year, barely keeping pace with inflation. Manufacturing losses mean fewer high-value employers, while new industries have not arrived at the same scale or pay. An economic development official sums up the city's predicament. They say, "We are treading water. Every year it gets harder to fund schools, police, and roads without new growth." Both cities illustrate how large urban centers can face severe fiscal and social pressures when economic diversification stalls and concentrated poverty persists. Their struggles set the stage for the different challenges faced by Tennessee's smaller towns. Brownsville sits at the crossroads of hope and hardship. The city's median household income is around half the Tennessee average, according to recent census estimates, a gap that shapes daily life for families and small businesses. For years, the promise of transformation centered on the West Tennessee megasite, a massive industrial site backed by over $800 million in state incentives. Yet for more than a decade, the land remained empty, with state spending outpacing job creation. In 2021, Ford announced Blue Oval City, which brought new optimism, but the jobs in the tax base are still years from reaching local households. One small business owner said that they kept hearing about big things coming, but it has been a long time since that meant more customers at their door. On March 31st, 2023, an EF3 tornado with winds near 140 miles per hour tore through Covington, damaging homes, businesses, and public buildings. Recovery efforts strained local resources already stretched by slow wage growth and limited new housing. A Covington homeowner recalled that they lost their roof that night. Insurance helped, but it took months to get repairs, and some neighbors just left. The storm exposed the fragility of aging housing stock and underscored the limits of emergency infrastructure in smaller towns. In Dyersburg and Dyer County, the story is one of shrinking participation. Over the past decade, fewer adults are working or seeking work, even as Tennessee's metropolitan areas expand their labor forces. State and federal data show Dyer County's real retail sales lagging behind statewide growth, and the number of local retail establishments has declined. A coordinator at the local college sees the impact daily and says they have training programs, but young people move away as soon as they graduate because the jobs are not here. These three towns show how rural decline in Tennessee is shaped by low incomes, delayed investment, disaster shocks, and an aging, shrinking workforce. Growth in Tennessee is not evenly shared. IRS and census migration data show that nearly a quarter of all domestic newcomers settle in the Nashville area alone. Smaller metros like Knoxville and Chattanooga capture most of the rest. In contrast, Memphis and many West Tennessee counties continue to lose residents or see little change, despite the state's overall population gains. This persistent loss reflects uneven regional dynamics. Over the past 2 decades, dozens of rural counties have experienced steady population decline, with some losing more than 10% of their residents. Rising housing costs and booming metros have not brought new life to struggling towns. Instead, most movers seek out regions with job clusters and established amenities. Cheap housing in places like Brownsville or Dyersburg has not reversed out migration, as job opportunities and services remain limited. The numbers confirm a widening divide. Tennessee's prosperity is increasingly concentrated in a handful of urban centers, leaving many communities behind. Urban economists point to the power of job clustering. In their view, Tennessee's growth engine is fueled by metros like Nashville, where dense labor markets, higher education levels, and strong infrastructure draw both employers and skilled workers. This concentration creates a cycle. More firms attract more talent, which in turn attracts more investment. Towns outside these clusters, they argue, face a skills mismatch and struggle to replace lost industries. Local leaders see a different path. They argue that targeted investment in infrastructure, education, and workforce training can reconnect struggling towns to the state's growth. But even the most ambitious projects like Blue Oval City require years to deliver broad benefits. The best case involves new residents drawn by remote work and supplier growth. The worst case is ongoing decline and consolidation of local services as tax bases erode. Uneven growth is not abstract. It shapes lives and futures across Tennessee right now. As metro areas surge, over 30 rural counties continue to lose people and opportunity. Whether that gap widens or narrows will define the state's next decade. The question is, who gets left behind? Share your thoughts below.